Anyway, look, we've got a special guest waiting for us.
Yeah, should we bring him on now?
Yeah, seeing as we're on topic of Sofyan Amrabat, we've got special guest, Mr. Jack Farr. He came and spoke to us a while back when Spurs were linked with Fonseca. Obviously, that never happened, so hopefully this doesn't happen as well. But let's see what he has to say about Sofyan Amrabat. Jack, how are we doing?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, all good now.
Much better now.
Okay, good. I think my laptop might have been messing me up there, so here we are. I'm on the phone.
No worries. How are we today?
Yeah, very, very well. First of all, big congratulations on the 100K. That's a serious achievement. So very, very impressive.
Thank you so much.
And just quickly before we start, you got Mourinho in charge, and you still have all your hair. How's things going?
Things are fine. I think from our conversation last time, I think you guys will probably remember that the problems at Roma run far deeper than the manager. So while Paulo Fonseca had a lot of my sympathies, Di Francesco had a lot of my sympathies, Mourinho also has a lot of my sympathies, and there are some bright sparks. So I'm staying optimistic.
Yeah, good. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of fire from Mourinho on the touchlines. I'm loving his interviews as well. But that's just what you get with Jose Mourinho. And you know what? I like seeing it from afar. I just didn't like seeing it within our own club, to be honest.
Right.
But let's talk about Sofyan Amrabat. Obviously, he's been heavily linked with Spurs. A lot of reliable sources saying the deal is very close to being done. What can you tell me about him? Because there's a lot of anxiety in the Spurs fan base about bringing him in. I mean, from what we know, we haven't seen him play a lot, but we know that he's not getting in the Fiorentina side. He's limited to very few substitute appearances. Only had one, start this season, but in the past he has been a very highly rated talent coming through. So what can you tell me about him?
He's a role player. I think this is the main kind of takeaway, and I know that's probably the last thing that you guys want to hear, but this is a guy, I think I mentioned this to you guys in DMs when we were chatting recently. The kind of player comparison I would use is somebody like Jordan Henderson. Jordan Henderson is not going to blow you away with, fantastic technical ability, tactical ability, or anything like that. He's a hard worker and he does a job. And if he's given instructions by somebody like Antonio Conte, you'd imagine he can fulfill that role. I think the appeal of somebody like Sofyan Amrabat to somebody like Conte, when Conte tells him to do something, he's probably going to do it down to kind of the finest details. Whereas somebody like maybe Lo Celso, maybe somebody like Tanguy and Ndombele, maybe they're not going to follow those instructions. Maybe they're going to be kind of more of a maverick. Whereas Amrabat, I think about him in that kind of military sense. He's a little bit of a soldier. If we're talking about Conte as the general, then I think Amrabat is just going to be one of his soldiers,
Yeah, and okay, that's fair enough. But why do you think why has it gone so wrong for him at Fiorentina of late? Why is he getting one start this whole season? I mean, I've heard it's not football related, but can you shed any more light as to what's happened there?
No, I mean, realistically, if we're kind of talking about the, I mention this often. I know it's kind of using American parlance somewhat, but if we talk about football in kind of a depth chart sense, if that makes sense, he just has like better players, who are around him. I mean, Lucas Torreira is a better player than Sofyan Amrabat. Somebody like Bonaventura is obviously a real kind of talisman for this Fiorentina team, and he is a better player than Amrabat. And then even some of the other guys, just looking here, you've obviously got role players who kind of fill in that third position. And one thing I think you guys mentioned before about why the deal hasn't been done yet, he is at the African Cup of Nations. And, I've not been watching him religiously in that tournament, obviously. I've not been watching that tournament religiously. But supposedly, I think this was Fabrizio Romano tweeting this, he's having a good tournament. So maybe that kind of piqued their interest there a little bit. But yeah, Joseph Alfred Duncan, comes in, makes the odd kind of appearances as well. Yusuf Maleh as well. These are a couple of African Italian type guys who've just kind of come through and retained some places. The main takeaway for me, those guys I've just mentioned, I guarantee like most of the people watching, maybe even you guys, haven't heard of. And if these guys are getting more appearances than somebody like Sofyan Amrabat, it's quite telling. I think if we're talking 8 to 10 million, then he's going to come off the bench and kind of do as he's told. I don't think you can shout at that in terms of value, but in terms of where Spurs want to be, I mean, fourth is there for you guys to take if you want it. It just depends if you want it or not. And Sofyan Amrabat is not a signing that is going to take that fourth position.
But I saw there was a graphic I saw on Twitter yesterday that in the ratings for Player of the Year, I think a couple of years ago, Amrabat for Hellas Verona finished third in the whole of Serie A for Player of the Year. So he clearly had a very good season. So is there a player there in him that could maybe be the player that we want him to be?
Not in my opinion. Purely because we talk about this a lot. The best goalkeepers in the world don't have the most saves because they play for the best teams, right? When you're a midfielder like Sofyan Amrabat and your main kind of best traits and abilities are being a nuisance, right? Getting around the pitch, trying to disrupt the opposition from playing. Those are kind of traits that would suit Hellas Verona, right? They would suit a kind of lower level team who are trying to be dogged and are trying to get a result that they don't really deserve, kind of like an underdog. If you're then moving up the ranks, Fiorentina, okay, we're not talking about Juve here, but if we're moving up to a Fiorentina level, which is, pushing for those Europa League spots year in and year out, you're going to be replaced by technically better football players, a Bonaventura, Lucas Torreira. The exact same thing with Spurs. We're not looking at some kind of dogged central midfielder that's needed here. You need a player with more quality because as a better football team, you're going to be dominating the ball more. So, like I said, you can talk about a goalkeeper having a great year if they're, I don't know, Norwich's goalkeeper or Watford's goalkeeper because they make more saves. But we all know the better goalkeepers don't have to make as good a saves because they play for the better teams and they don't concede so many shots.
I mean, you telling us he's not as good of a player as Lucas Torreira, I mean, that definitely rings alarm bells. But when you're looking at the Spurs midfield, right, you're talking about Lo Celso and Ndombele, who can't follow the instructions of Antonio Conte. And they've got the kind of potential X factor going forward with their creative roles. But when you're looking at the midfield that we've got right now in Højbjerg, Skip, Winks, is he not a bit too similar to these kind of players?
He's a bit of a bigger man, so I want to say he's like 6'1", so he's a little bit more physically imposing. I think Højbjerg is absolutely nailed in. I think it's very clear to see that Conte loves Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, as I do. I think he's absolutely fantastic. But for Winks and somebody like, I don't know, Oliver Skip as well, I just think that this is a very good, cheap alternative to maybe build a foundation where he can rely on Højbjerg and one other. And then maybe somebody like Sofyan Amrabat can come off the bench and try and, shore up a result. That would be my guess. I think as fans, we're always looking for the X Factor guys, right? But if you're Antonio Conte, realistically, you're just trying to win football matches. And if you're trying to send on somebody and it's like, this is what I need you to do, and then on the pitch you don't see it, I think there's a great deal of frustration in that. What I would say to you guys is, if Amrabat comes in and starts, I would be amazed. I would be absolutely amazed. This, to me, just reeks of a guaranteed sub in nearly every single game to either, shore up a result that's already there or to cause some disruption and win the ball back and then let your attacking players flourish by kind of creating that foundation. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but I don't want to, bleep all over this guy. But this is not the caliber of signing befitting of Tottenham Hotspur, even as a sub. Really, I mean, you guys, I think referenced it earlier. I think it's 1 start and 10 substitute appearances. Yeah, he's been away at the African Cup of Nations, but realistically, this guy has not really suffered tremendously with injuries. He's been available most of the time. There are just 3 or 4 midfielders who are getting in the team ahead of him right now.
And I know it's a deal that at this point looking unlikely to happen, but it looks like we were looking to get Frank Kessie in January, but it looks like that deal is going to be off, seeing as it appears that we agreed a deal with AC Milan, but his agent wants to wait till the summer.
Hasn't he agreed a deal with Barcelona?
Those are rumours. There's nothing concrete there, but how much of a coup would it be if Tottenham in the summer would get someone like Frank Kessie in for you?
Oh, unbelievable. This is one of the best, this is one of the best, forget Serie A, this is one of the best midfielders in the world. I think it's very easy, maybe it's subconsciously racist, I don't know. But I think it's very easy to look at an African central midfielder and just picture this like destroyer, right? Frank Kessie is so much more than that. Frank Kessie is an intelligent football player, technically very, very, very sound. And he can do it all, incredible motor on him as well. You mentioned it already. Being linked with the likes of Barcelona is absolutely no shock to me. That would be a fantastic fit for Spurs and also for somebody like Antonio Conte. So, if I was in their position, I'd be pushing for him very, very hard, certainly more than Sofyan Amrabat. But look, he's played well to deserve the interest from, no disrespect to Spurs, but these all-time elite clubs like your Barcelonas, Real Madrids, etc., etc. So it's no surprise to me that he'd be linked to these clubs. But it would shock me if that's not been a serious consideration for Antonio Conte and Fabio Paratici.
Yeah, well, look, thanks for easing our fears about Sofyan Amrabat. Not so much. No, but thanks for giving us some more insight that we wouldn't have. So, yeah, thank you for that. And I'd just like to say good luck for the remainder of the season with Jose Mourinho.
And a few people have been asking, by the way, if there's a YouTube channel they could find you on there. You're more than welcome to go ahead and plug wherever you want to plug.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, as I mentioned to you guys, 100K subscribers is incredibly impressive. So I appreciate the opportunity to use your platform. Guys, Box to Box Football. It's me and my buddy James. We went to UCFB and studied. He did coaching and management. I did international football business at an undergraduate degree level, and we just talk all things football. Try and find things to disagree on. Tier lists, all this kind of good stuff. So yeah, Box to Box Football on YouTube. Thanks for the Roma support. I'm still kind of in the stages of just tempering my expectations and hoping in 2 years' time to be talking to you guys with a bigger smile on my face.
Well, best of luck, and best of luck for the Conference League as well. Now I can support Jose Mourinho because we're not in it anymore. So good luck to you guys, and thanks a lot for coming on.
Yeah, I'd rather not be in it. Thank you very much, you guys. See you next time.
See you, Jack.